exaggerating Meilei's reversed. And while she's not going to be
I got
on
a
a
Switch
generally
emulator
highly
working.
recommended list, she is workable if you choose to
But actually,
do so,
this means I can
as
actually
long
play
as you
Mare
are
Skeletor
aware of
Finale.
the considerations. Layla
Which means
is a really
I'm
solid
basically
shielder.
replaying
She
through
can
all of
give
Mare
almost
Skeletor now,
constant
aren't I?
uptime since her shield duration and cooldown are the same.
For now, I'm
And
still
her shield is
obsessed
pretty
with
strong
Dark
if
Army
you build her
Resurrection,
as a dedicated shield support.
and
So
I
she
want to beat
already
it in
does her
Master
main
mode.
function at C0, but her C1 is great for even more protection. So among these 4 stars, I would say that the best pickup is Cookie, but it's a great opportunity to get copies of these newer Sumeru 4 stars also, especially if you're a long-time player like myself. I am still lacking constellations for Dori and Layla in particular. Moving on to the weapon banner, and the featured 5 stars are Key of Kajni's Suit for Nilou and 1,000 Floating Dreams for Nahida. Now let's start with the Key. So the Key is currently a very niche weapon. It's best in slot for Nilou because it gives a ton of HP, which boosts her entire team's bloom damage, and it lets her buff her teammates' EM based on her HP stat, which is a lot. So for Nilou bloom teams, this weapon will be crazy. I mean, if you really want to invest into that team, then you can definitely consider going for the Key. There are still free-to-play and alternative weapon choices for her, though since we don't have other dedicated HP weapons yet, they are not as potent as the Key is on her. However, I am speculating that we might get more HP weapons when we get to Fontaine, so there might be hope for Nilou's weapon options to expand. Now, if you get the Key somehow and no Nilou, then at least you have a couple of other HP scaling sword characters to work with, such as Cookie, who uses HP for her healing, and Layla for her shield. It's not the end of the world, despite it being quite a niche weapon at the moment. The other 5-star is 1,000 Floating Dreams, which is Nahida's signature weapon and general best in slot for giving her a high EM stat and a passive effect that gives the user an EM or elemental damage buff based on their teammates' elemental types. The weapon also boosts the rest of the team's EM. That said, Nahida has so many alternative catalysts ranging from 3 stars to craftables to limited 4 stars and 5 stars of course, that are still very good and competitive. So I think that 1,000 Floating Dreams is great for aesthetics, but in terms of full value, it's not something I would prioritize. Now for the 4-star weapons, it's EM Impact, since 4 out of 5 of these are EM weapons. Stringless is a great addition, particularly amazing on Fischl and Venti, and then there's Seapost Moonlight, which is a really great new EM sword for anyone who generally scales on EM. It converts EM into ER for the user and your team, and anything that helps with your team's energy is often really good in general. Then there's the Sacrificial Fragments, that's also good on EM scaling Catalyst users who would also benefit from the cooldown reduction passive, though you would want refinements to really make the reduction effect fit well into rotations. For the pole arm, there's the Dragon's Bane, which is weird because it very recently ran on 2 consecutive banners, so I have no idea why it's rerunning again really soon. I feel like Koyo forgot their other 4-star pole arms out there, but anyway, for characters that also want EM, then there you go, it's great, it's there. Then the last and odd one out is the Favonius Greatsword. As a Favonius weapon, there isn't much to say other than it's a welcome addition if you have Claymore users that are particularly energy hungry, and you can also use it to address the team's overall energy needs, which is the Favonius series in a nutshell. So overall, I'm quite glad to see Seapost on the banner again, since I think it's a really good 4-star weapon, but it's not a weapon banner I would generally pull on unless you either really want to invest into Nilou's teams, or you really want to get those signature weapons for the featured 5 stars. It's probably one of the lower priority weapon banners that we've seen lately. And that's going to be all for this video. Let me know your thoughts on the banners down below in the comments, and if it helped you out, don't forget to leave a like, consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all soon. Take care!
Aha! Oh yeah, stamina still gets consumed. Yep. Yep. Oh, sure. Why do I have so many BOGO stuff? Should have sold them. Whatever, they're too inconvenient. I'll just throw some away. For now.
Okay. See, anyways, let's go look at Mario's cock. Oh yeah, we did see Mario's cock. I forgot about that. Is it the first playable toad in Mario history, by the way? Yeah. Outside of like Mario Kart? Mario 2 as well. Oh no, you're right. I like that's heavy asterisk, man. Like they didn't need to make no playable, they just needed a sprite. Yeah, no, it counts though. Yeah. Oh, Mario's cock. Oh, that's neat. I see Mario's cock. Do you think that means he's hung? Oh yeah, no, I think he's shocked or prepared. I think he's like absolutely just enthralled, just like he won't be able to stop thinking about Mario's cock for a week now. Let's get to kind of yeah, just bring him along. Like, say, come on, bro, this game so sweet. I kind of want to play through this whole game now. Yeah, it's a good game. I went through it once, but finding games in this series was not part of the time. Yeah, that's all. Also, Bowser's Inside Story, really fucking good. Yeah, that one alive. People say that's the best one. Which, I kind of, honestly, I get it. Like, that was definitely like the most unique in the series. But honestly, I know I said yes, but yeah, and like, you actually, all four customers kind of fun. Actually, no, I think Mario's kind of just like my favorite place mechanically, but that was just like so great. Yeah, so what I'm planning on doing is, I want to play Super Princess Peach next. Yes, I've always wanted to play that game. I played it as a kid, and it just sounds like a funny game to like bring to people's attention. Yeah, people don't really think about that game after like. I can't believe they never like recorded it or like made a sequel to it or anything. I just cannot believe that the one game they finally get into a female protagonist, they make her fight for the power of her unchecked and uncontrolled emotions. Yeah, like one of them is crying, one of them just being so pissed. It's funny though. Yeah, it's funny, but for all the wrong reasons. Yeah, it's like how many games do you have like the best she cries. Yeah.
Oh. Oh, fuck. I'm so stupid. No. Fuck. Shit.
Completely different character, I guess. I want to just like the overall framework of the game you answer is my fucking favorite.
Hey, Beetle.
Mario character that's Mario Mario Ball game.
Fuck. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think that is one game where I'm like, I wouldn't mind learning this like speedrun production because I've seen it actually hype. I've watched a run of it a few years back. It's like the guy that I shit that's like straight games with Sarah, like Tetris Pack type shit. But dude, I want to play. What is the new Tetris game? New Tetris game? Yeah. Tetris Effect? Yeah, Tetris Effect. Have you played it? I've watched people play. I've watched people like be like pro Tetris players being plays Tetris Effect. It's perfectress type video. Oh, what's so crazy about it is it actually has a rain toss mode. Oh shit, yeah. Yeah, so it's like, it's up to 3 players, we have to recruit another, okay, and they get, it's us versus an AI that just obviously puts a tons of trash blocks in our path. It's just a raid boss, like that's all it is.
Why is it only 3 player?
I guess because like they built more slots.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, probably like 4 if they might speak so much more. Makes sense.
Yeah, no, I follow that. Those were... Do you have it, don't worry. That's what I was about to say. Why did they silence those? Like, I don't think I've seen him since Sunshine. Did we leave him on the island?
Okay, so usually the school articles. Also, like, kid, like, dude, I think it's so weird of like this. What's the word of like the Bowser family tree? This filterification of the Mario extended universe. Because like, you know, people always think about toads, right? And like down your door, how they all have different shapes, and then you look at like color flash, and they're all the same color.
Yeah, it's the exact same red light toad.
Yeah, it's stuff like that. Like that, but on a much larger scale. Like, it's always Bowser, right? I mean, it's always Bowser. Like always. But like the mini bosses are different. Like, I think Odyssey did a good job of introducing tons of weird and
Yeah, the fucking bunnies and shit.
yeah, but the problem is though they never bring stuff back
Yeah.
anymore. Like so many characters are sidelined for all of the Mario universe.
Yeah, I mean, dude, fucking Yondas.
Yeah.
They're in the sports games, I guess.
He's wrong, right?
Yeah. Like, they stay on whatever console they were released on, and then never again. Speed Bro is also in Mario Kart, double that.
And now Mario Kart 8.
Oh, he was still okay.
Yeah, I thought it was great. And I was like one of those characters.
Oh, yeah, they had me get that. Which was crazy because, honestly, very healthy for Mario Kart 8 to get patched.
Yeah, this 14-year-old game. You know, it's like 8 years. I think it came out. Yeah, it's like going on 9 years.
Just either started 2014 or ended 2013. I don't remember which, but it was somewhere around there. Because I remember I got into Mario Kart right before I got into Melee.
Yeah.
Like, I was feeling the gamer itch of natural progression. Yeah, no, because I, like, Mario Kart 8 came out, I was like, how can I, like, just beat all my friends' asses? Like, awesome, satisfying that your brains are down there. Yeah, like an 8. Yeah. I was like, learning how to do fire hopping and whatever the fuck it's called. Like, whatever Mario Kart 8 speed tech there was, I just learned how to do all of it.
Yeah.
I was like, alright, this is fun.
Oh, wow.
I need to just find someone to play Mario Kart with me on my Wii U. And none of my friends had a Wii U back in the day, so I just gave up. And then I got the Melee, which none of my friends had a GameCube either, but that was Melee was fun, so I didn't mind riding it alone. Oh yeah, the camera! We can get goofy.
And it's just so much charm. Oh my god, these sprites are so nostalgic to me because I saw them in every single Newgrounds animation imaginable.
Yeah, did you ever see Super Ever Team?
I don't think they use those sprites.
Yeah, but like that.
Oh, yeah, like that era.
Yeah, like that's this type of sprite. Need more facial sprites. Like,
Oh no, I think you're right. You're right. I saw the side profile and I was like, you're right.
yeah, like
Because for some reason I was like, I think this is Mario.
yeah, I think that visual is more backwards for it, but this sprite works exactly Mario Kart 8.
Yeah.
Which I always figured that's like an actual like feature on the thing. Yeah, it's not like you should like take the lead and stuff. Yeah, this game's I love this game. This game's phenomenal. This game, Partners in Time. I really want to try. I want to try the other games, even though I've heard they're not as good.
I played them all actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Dream Team gets a bit more hate than it deserves.
I feel it's a little neat, honestly.
It's a little neat. It's like it's a little much for me. Paper Jam. I think the game is fine, but I think it's the biggest missed opportunity.
How so?
Like the game should be so much better.
Because it's just like
having Team Mario and Paper Mario and Team Up like combine the RPGs is such a cool concept.
yeah.
And I think it's just like, why not lean into it even more and like have more Paper Mario do like the world stuff or something like that. They have a lot of like fun visual gags in it, like most notably, the famous one is Peach and Paper Peach are trapped in a cave. Yeah, she's like, how shall we get out of this? And then Paper Peach just walks out.
Yeah, they just stare at each other for a second after.
Excuse me?
Yeah, like, if you did Sonic Generations, like, banger fucking games, fucking I love 3. I mean, people review it as, like, the best Sonic game, which, I'm gonna go that far, but it's in my top. It's definitely my top games, but, like, there's so many Pokemon that is their favorite, like, I have any answer. Yeah, like, my thing is, like, I don't know which Sonic game is the best, but I know I have hours of it is 42.
I was thinking of just turning back, but
That's my favorite
this is a
Sonic
faster and safer route in the end, now that I think about it.
Yeah, no, like, dude, all this stat cycle is so cool. Yeah, and then there's rain and also after everything. Yeah, and you can say, which one do I want to have more of? And it's like,
Oh, there is this guy. I'm not saving him.
yeah.
Ow! Okay,
Oh my god, they just so that power.
fuck you!
It's so funny actually because of that. Yeah, because I think you might go on all power or all luck. I don't remember. I think it's yeah, I remember attaching it to just all power and then just like all hard unlimited. Yeah, hard unlimited.
What the?
Oh, nice. Oh, pretty good. Oh, smart. Oh my god, we're cats. We're actually cats.
Oh, come on.
It's just like little detail. Yeah, it's just so nice. Oh, the game has charm. It shows. Yeah, like, man.
Oh wow, it's hot.
Would you wear the dress in this game? No. That is something. I believe that. I don't know. I was talking about this. Now that I've been wholesome, I'm now going to start complaining about Origami King, my favorite thing to do. Or just later Paper Mario games. Like with like the partners and stuff. Like, yeah, no, that's you're fine. Sorry, just got a whole visual in my head. But like, I don't know, it's like, I just like, the thing I like about Zelda Mario 64, and even like Super Mario, like, the partners are like, they have personality and shit, like they're actually useful, but they're just funny. That's
Ooh.
I get that Origami King has that. Like, I always hear Origami King, like, they kind of have it. Sticker Star? No, I will never defend Sticker Star. Origami King, if you like it, that's fine. Yeah, you're allowed to like it. Sticker Star, I don't know. Because I don't know, they think like, Mario Bros. 3 I get it. But yeah, I don't like it. I don't play it all the time. Yeah.
Didn't know that was there.
I guess this is one thing I didn't finish Secret Star, but it's because I didn't like it. Yeah, that's also going down. But like, I don't know, that visual gag too, I like that. Bowser goes up the right side, goes to the left, like fucking Mario Bros. Also, fucking lost off. I like that they bring it back to Partners in Time. It's just like a merchant. Like, he's like a little fancy crook, you know what I mean? Oh, he gets big romantic hero, absolutely. He's so loud. Oh, nice. So I read, what the fuck? What the fuck, bro? Okay, so speaking of what the fuck, bro, I've been always rewatching Danny Payne. That's just she was like, I never watched it. I'm like, sure, I'll yeah, we're watching Danny Payne. In like episode 2, you know, his friend was still worrying about like the game. And Hunter asked this one question from Danny. So you can possess people? Yeah. Could you possess a girl for just 2 minutes? Oh my god. Jane and I had to scream after that. Oh my god. And then you said so she could accept my invite wrong. That's still, what? But yeah, I was like, whoa. Okay, going back and rewatching David Tucker sexually harasses someone like once an episode. Yeah, find this one delivery girl, and he's like, Sam, whoa, you find delivery after hours? What else can you do after hours? Oh my god! Yeah! Is it the direct quote from the show? I think there's another one. Like once an episode, Jay Tyson has to go, whoa. That fucking sexually harassment. I can say though, the colors are good, the animation's good, the voice acting is like surprisingly good. It's pretty good, yeah. And there's like an underlying plot, like I think they have a whole down arc for Danny going to prison and all the enemies of the past episodes are there. No, wait, yeah, they have a prison break. Yeah, they have Danny Payne as the
Oh right, I can't bomb fish anymore.
I've never watched any of them.
And he has to team up with them. No, I sort of like, I know the ending arc is like pretty just content. Where like it's the time like it's like now that I'm watching the show, I thought it was gasping like as a kid. But I think as an adult, I think it's legitimately like a well-made show, like an underarc story with like good character dynamics and development. Yes. It's not like a Fairly Odd Parents where it's like, oh, it's like, you know, funny, but it's like, actual depth of the show. Yeah, because it's like an art story that like goes deep the episode, but it's just so shocking how that integrated, because it definitely does have like Monster of the Week tendencies to it. Yeah, which makes sense still though, because, you know, children's cartoons like Monsters of the Week, Monsters of the Week is like a formula that works. Yeah, but they kind of do like the One Piece thing where like every character comes back in some capacity, you know. I think the same thing about Avatar. When I was rewatching Avatar recently, I just kept thinking about like how wow, every character matters. They introduce someone like episode 3, and they definitely come back. I know they go like up top, yeah. Yeah, they can do like the angles here. Yeah, right there. Yeah, right. Nice. Where's this guy's name? That's on the Jump Rope Bros. Jump Rope Bros? Oh, they're sick. That's a shot in the dark, but I feel like I'm correct. That sounds like it'd be correct. No, yeah, now we're homies. Can we Jump Rope Bros? I didn't feel we meet the big meat dragon guy. Yeah, we need just 100 points. Have you seen the spear of this game though? I've seen the end recent one where no, I didn't see it. Exactly. Yeah. It is just the thumbnail alone for that is what the fuck is going on? It looks like TV static. It looks like there was colorful TV static out there. But oh yeah, because we have to be bounced around, right? Yeah. We're gonna have though, right? I think they take 100 points for like I think 100 points. Oh, I know it's that mushroom king currency. Is it the currency? Yeah, you're like, oh, I have 100 points, and then your money's useless here. Look at this bad bastard. That is, he's a big ass boy. Yeah, 100 coins. He's like, Lamau, no, actually. Yeah, it's just like imagine getting handed like British pounds and just ripping them up. Dude, actually, did you know that like Canadian money and like UK money, you can't rip it? Yeah, I did. I proved that shit wrong. He pays me $5. I was like, no, that's not how we roll America, bitch. I cheated a little bit, but I still did it. I still think fucking Canadians culture money for me. Cartoonish ass. No, dude, I literally, like, I did not believe that shit. Whenever Sarah came down, the Resident Canadian, the Resident Canadian, dude, she told me about that shit, I was like, bring me a fucking Canadian to me. It seems to even sound like, okay, they don't sound real, like, conceptually, like, they're made of a different, like, material. Like, they're not made of, American material.
No,
whenever you drop them, it sounds like you're dropping toy money. Like, it just doesn't sound real. It should be real. But I get why they're called a Canadian, because they have Tony Duck or whatever, or DC.com. No, it's the Duck.
I left this time.
I don't know, man. It's just a $2 coin. I didn't know they don't have kitties there or anything like that. They just That's so pointless. No, they
they are. I don't know if that like died to inflation though. But they're not $1 bills or like $2 bills, which also makes
One more.
$1 bills are disgusting. As somebody that worked in a bank or
Because I have a gambling addiction.
that worked like serves get tips. $1 bills is so fucking gross, man. Also, I don't think I've ever actually used a $2 bill.
Alright, the center.
I'm one vending machine that actually accepts them. I feel like it's such a waste, right? It's like such a rare thing to get a $2 bill. Yeah, but at the same time, like, you can just go to a bank and ask for them. And like, oh, I just gave you, yeah, no, like, it's, I feel like it's hers. How much does it cost? That's all I'm gonna ask. What are you gonna ask then? How much is it worth? How much, time does it take to, just, you know, not that long. Steak, I get a $2 bill. Yeah, that's right. Do you know that $500 bills and $1,000 bills are real also? Like, that's not me. No. No, like, there's actually $500 bills, $1,000 bills. Why? They're out of print. No, why? You don't know why we have to, like, I want to say, like, 1950s type era. Oh, that's crazy. But, like, dude, like, $500 back then was, like, a lot of money. Yeah, no, like, that's why, like, I don't know why we had them. But, like, I only seen one whenever I worked at the bank. They didn't bring it to our branch. They brought it to another branch, and then, like, it was, like, just such a spectacle. So, like, we were sitting around the other branches. But, like, if somebody would have handed me that at the banker, like, at the before I ever go ahead, oh, no, I would have taken it, but, alright, I think just give me this back. This counterfeit. That's how bank works, like, yeah. I remember working at a bank at Walmart, and there was a fireworks stand outside of it. And some, like, kid came up and was like, hey, we're getting fireworks stand out here. So he gave us this $50 bill or whatever.
Bruh.
And we needed steak. Can you let us know? Yeah. And they handed it to me. And I said, okay, yes, it is steak. Completely, I'm not allowed to handle stack to you. Yeah. Because you're not allowed to give out fake money at a baker to work with steak. They call it Doms. Oh. Not on me, but like, okay. It's like, holy shit. That's like one I was in.
Oh my, they're still there.
I almost had a cop call on me. Oh, really? Yeah. It was fucking stupid. So, okay, here's the thing. Fun fact. Do you know people from Oregon are so fucking stupid that they cannot come to gas. Oh, yeah. It's Oregon, and Jersey. In New Jersey.
Yeah, I may as well wear them.
Yeah.
It just looks so weird not having pants.
And it's actually pretty rare for gas stations to have, like, pumpers that late. So sometimes if it's late, you just can't put your gas up.
4 times the damage, and Lionel's have 750 health. The red ones.
Yeah, so I guess this is Oregon. Yeah, I went there, and I tried to build my car. And
It's a crusher.
said,
Hey, wait, whoa.
The guy snatches it out of my hand. Yeah, I thought I was like about to get blood or shit. And then I was reaching slammed into my face. But they're like aggressive for no reason. Yeah, and I was just like, yeah, I don't know the laws of the state, so I just say, so do you do this? And he goes, yeah, where are you from? From California. Yeah, it's against the law. You're lucky I don't call the police on you. Alright. He goes, yeah,
Okay, I didn't know it was a crusher, Lionel.
Yeah, they like, yeah, haha, that's funny, I didn't know that, but I'm not from here. You really don't look at the laws. You stay here.
I'm just gonna avoid him.
And you, buddy. And then he goes, yeah, well, you be in Mexico, and they all do the same thing. And he goes, yeah, well, that's the laws of the state you visit. He goes, oh, Mexico's not a state, asshole. And then he said, yeah, because, I mean, you should really start reading the laws, because if you go cross the border to California and go for a pound of weed, you're going to get arrested on the spot. How is that the same thing? Yeah, no, how is that the same thing? It's just not. Oh my god, I am screaming. I mean, you know, doing it as easy as just saying, fuck this, I'm going home. Oh, dude. That's like, I wouldn't be so aggravated at that. Like, that's like taking the tiniest bit of power that you have, just like, I don't know, that's like, power, it's like, you know, like, going like, yeah. It's just like, why are you treating me like an idiot for just, like, not being grumpy or anything? Like, I don't know. I personally have never like Kansas, Texas, Arkansas, Chicago, like I've traveled so much for so many people. Yeah, like I really want one of two states in the country that doesn't do that. Like everyone else gets to like pump their own shit, like I don't know. Yeah, but I told my first name, she's from Oregon. And I just asked her, she was like, oh, I did a couple of months ago, and that's the one that I'm going to guess. Oh, yeah. See, I don't know if I'm going to guess. It's just like, you know, I like to go inside and get like a drink or something else. Like, it's just kind of nice. Like, I don't want somebody else to touch my shit. Like, I don't know. I just think it's like, I know I'm sure like, I guess. Like, I don't like people being like, touch my shit. Like, if somebody like offers to pump my gas for like, you know, friends, I would say no. Like, yeah. Like, that's not my thing. Oh, nice. Like, what do we have now? Not all that much. Shit, we'll get there. Nice. Cute. Really? Oh, no, here's a route oh, like, yeah, the speedrunner up, I think, yeah. That's, what is that thing called? A brush? Or is it just a brush? I don't know, either way. I like the Mario Bros, though. Yeah, 74. Oh, we actually have to do stuff, yeah. That's not money. Wow, we got 1 point, that's beautiful. Why does always like, I don't know, I was playing this game, like, as a kid, you know, it was like you press the A button, I go with the B button. Yeah, it's like, the single player and multiplayer structure. Yeah, you want to play a game with your friends, but you don't want to make them watch you play the game. See, I kind of gave up. I tried to do that a couple times, but I eventually just like got to the point where me and my friends just quietly watch each other play games. Like, I watched him play through all of Sonic Adventure 1. I was just about to bring up that I had that same friend watching me play Sonic Adventure 1. Yeah. Like, I had some friends that I was like, I had them over, like, hey, you want to watch me play Galaxy? It wasn't like I was doing like big levels or anything, I was just playing through Galaxy. Like, I was like a couple levels and it'd be like, okay, we got the game, like, we didn't get it, you know? Yeah, big bro got the game. Yeah, exactly, but like, with Sonic games, like, I guess I've never actually, I play real Sonic games now, but like, back until like, after, like, I had played Shadow the Hedgehog, I played Sonic Adventure, or, do you know what I am? I hadn't seen all Sonic Adventure 1, like, I didn't play the games, but like, I was mostly just be watching my friends play them, yeah, of course. I think Sonic Adventure 1 where, like, I actually just did not touch it until, like, well, after, like, already popular. That was like Sonic 06, that was fun. Yeah, I'm not playing Sonic 06. Yeah, I was playing it. That's cool. Perfect for our Xbox, or we get that going. It's a fun game, you don't know. Like, I'm trying to do one for, like, the remastered one, the Project Sonic and stuff like that, like, yeah, where it's just like I would like Sonic 06, just give it all the time. Leave the game exactly as it is, otherwise I don't give a shit. It's pretty funny. They are funny, but they're not funny whenever I'm playing the game. It's just so funny to me that, like, the game actually has to go the entire game. Yeah, it's not like, the concept of it is hilarious, but it just made real fast. Yeah, it's just like, it is funny, but it's not the type of funny that makes me want to play the game. Yeah, it's like Sonic Adventure 1 was just the funny that makes me want to play the game type of thing, you know? But like, it's, that's not my forte. I kind of keep so many. I keep it very clean, but like I don't know. It's like the game might be better, but like I can put up with shit if I didn't get punished for like 5 minutes. Like that type of thing though. Because like getting cheated out by like the game cheating me, killing me in a dumbass way, hilarious. Making me wait, like and putting me in timeout for it though, like that's where I'm like, okay. I'll talk to your boy Leaks. Yeah, really good. Now we'll just get the fans. I think Leaks, right? Yeah, we're just getting the hot spot. I remember being like, it's so crazy how fast this portion of the game actually is. Because like, when I was a kid, I thought this shit took forever to get 100 coins. Oh yeah, no, it feels like it does. Like, early, like, even like, whenever we started playing this, never like, you said, yeah, we're gonna get 100 coins real quick. My brain's like, I know it's fast, but my brain's like, oh, that's not fast. And you're like, oh shit. Oh, nice. Yeah, they do. You make that, you cut that shit close. Yeah, like all these, like, I'm surprised like how tight all these jumps are. Yeah, I don't know, or maybe they are getting to the perfect distance, right? Yeah, they really don't people like feel like they're sequence break shit. Nice. Alright, now. I think the whole like top one plot line is funny because as a kid I didn't even know that was about. Oh really? Yeah. Wow. I thought when you leveled up, you got more heals. Oh, I think that's fair. So, yeah, later games. Yeah, I think. Or an RPG. Yeah. Like Paper Mario, you do. Okay. Now, I think like
Motion controls are still drifting.
It's nice that they both have their own, like, you can 3D that, honestly. Yeah. Did you ever see, like, the Mario movie you put Sephiroth? Yes. I think that was one of the funniest characters I've ever seen. It's just like, someone made one of those, like, okay, all these characters are hypothetically fighting who you think wins. And one of them was Luigi Sephiroth, and people just have all these hypotheticals like Mario and Luigi countering Sephiroth with throws attacks. Yeah. And it's just super funny conceptually. I like all the TikToks with it too, just like, really my internet. Like, it's not a good meme, honestly. I always forget about this fight, I'll be honest. Yeah, I forget that we had a fight in this game. He just kind of like started the game. That used to be fun. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier, there was a League of Freaks for you. Yeah, oh, okay. Yeah, just like next turn. Oh, yeah, no. I'm a cheat. That makes sense, yeah. Best tactic out there. Death here. You got it's fine. We still get hit. Like, as long as we don't get hit, that's all that matters. Oh. Nice. Big damage. Sephiroth. Oh no, these are attacks. Especially if they can cheat time as well. Like, I don't think you can. Final Fantasy VII does not have this booster online. Oh, nice. It'll be nice. Yeah. There we go. See, yeah. Wait, hold on, Mario leveled up? Yeah, he gets fucking weird.
Just oh so slightly. What the heck is up with that?
I mean,
Whatever.
you know?
Shouldn't matter for now.
Yeah, it's from this. I did not realize that Bowser was the mask as a kid. I did not realize that was Bowser. So yeah, just like, how? I was looking, like...
I would like pants.
Hi.
That all of them was the same.
Oh.
He looks like part of the same species of creature that Bowser is.
Ooh.
I'm glad that you're not racist to do this, man. makes me happy.
Ah.
I'm just saying, like, I think that speaks for itself. And it sure does.
Oh.
Alright. I think this video is if we get swarmed by like a crowd. Wait, yeah. I don't know. I feel like that probably was not made for that thing. Oh shit.
Ah. Oh. Ah. Huh?
Hands acquired.
Yeah. Ah.
So how am I supposed to get the warm doublet and find your armor?
Mm.
Ash Swamp Fort Hateno. Oldest of monsters brothers. Wait, that's it? Who owns the farm uphill? Had an ancestor. Okay. I think I know where the other one is now. I don't have the map right now, but like, should be like somewhere around here. I remember the location. I am allowed to use a campfire and unrandomize the armor to guarantee them. However, I still need a key. I can't turn off the key requirement. I will not do it. Never. I think I should change the limit to 300 instead of 100. I think 100 is too limiting.
Hey everyone, it's Sevi and I'm back again so soon with another video because Genshin Impact has just teased their next new character who I'm looking at right now. She is Kirara and she is an Inazuma Dendro user and she's going to be our first Inazuma Dendro character actually. And once she comes out, Dendro will have overtaken Geo in number of characters in their roster, which is kind of crazy. I also thought that Genshin would slow down a bit on the Dendro characters once Kave and Baiju come out, but I guess that's not the plan. So she is giving me 4-star vibes right now. There's no confirmation or indication of her actual rarity, but I'm curious what role she's going to play. When Kave came out, I talked a bit about how he might become a dedicated Dendro support like raw Dendro damage. And that was probably my wishful thinking, is that Kave and Alhazen would really good together in the same team. However, that didn't end up being the case. Kave is going to have a different kind of kit, but I don't know, this is the chance for Kirara to maybe have that kind of kit. And if she isn't going to be that class of elemental support, I hope she has a fun, very mobile, maybe fast-paced kit and style, because her affiliation is an Inazuma courier or delivery service, basically. It says that she is full level courier of the Komania Express, which is really cute. Yeah, running all over the place, and I hope that her kid incorporates that. I wouldn't mind having more taxi characters, like how Sayu rolls around and Yelan has her skill that's like fast travel and stuff. The other things that I wanted to comment on actually is her character design, because first of all, she kind of has the Goro Miss Hina color palette. This description, in fact, even mentions General Goro, so I don't know if they're related or if they're acquainted or if they know each other. I mean, Kirara is clearly a cat girl, right? Like, you see this. She has two tails. She has cat feet down here. And then she has these ears, but when I looked closer, they look like just ornaments. They look like a bow that's designed to look like cat ears, and then when
Another
I zoomed in
fake
here, she
cat
still
girl.
has,
What
like,
the
an
hell?
earlobe sticking out. But anyway, aside from that, she is a Nekomanda, which is basically like cat form yokai in Japanese folklore. Cat girl moment, I guess. Let's go back to what this implies for what we can expect in version 3.7. So, if my hunch is right, and Kirara is going to be a 4-star, then that means we are probably not going to get any new 5-star characters in Genshin 3.7, because Genshin didn't drip market or tease any other new characters. So 3.7 is going to be full of rerun banners. Now it's time to guess which rerun banners this are going to be. Is it finally Tula time? Are we going to see her again after so long and after she didn't run with a dedicated physical support? The other banner I'm guessing is Alhaitham. I know that Alhaitham just came out in 3.4, but I wouldn't be surprised if they put out a Dendro 5-star banner along with Kirara, an upcoming
I
Dendro
don't have a
4-star.
key anyway.
And
I
our
don't know
Dendro
why
5-stars
I'm
right
so
now,
hard for
Nikita
it.
and Baishu, they are running in version 3.6, so the remaining 5-stars come up. Alhaitham. Another 5-star I'm actually anticipating is Wonder. I mean, we've pretty much been seeing reruns of the first 5-stars that have come out in the 3.0, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3 versions. So Wonder and Alhaitham from 2.3 and 3.4, I wouldn't be surprised to see them come back.
Unless the person
We might get another
that girl is
Inazuma
talking
affiliated
about
character to go with Kirara.
is
But
Kira.
maybe Wonder already counts as
That,
that
or
Inazuma.
potentially it's in the
Let me
beach,
know in the comments which
and was
reruns you
stolen
would
or
like to
something,
see in version 3.7
along
or
with
which
the rest
reruns
of
you
the
think
herd.
we will see, even if you are
It's
probably
like all the
not
knight armor
anticipating
seem to be
for it.
protected by
Anyway,
monsters
that's
in
going
some
to be
way,
all
shape,
for
or
this
form,
video,
so...
and let me know your thoughts or
Report
your
that Hang is in the
reactions
place
to
with the Lhasa
new
rusty sword,
released character down below.
and then
Are
there's
you
the large
interested in her?
Hinox
Is it past?
guarding
Just gonna wait
another
for the
one, I
banners to
believe
get
it's the
announced?
helmet.
If you enjoyed the video,
Of
don't
course
forget
it
to
is.
leave a like and
Cats are
consider
really
subscribing to my channel
hard
if
to
you
come
haven't
by,
already.
too.
And I will see you all soon. Here.
Five, 7, 8, 20, 30, 50. Yeah, I think I should change it to 300. I think that should be fair.
A false swipe gaming film. Landorus bursts onto the scene in Generation 5 as part of Black and White's Forces of Nature Genie Trio, a fascinating set of legendary Pokemon which it is the leader of, able to calm Thunderous and Tornadus when their storms are raging, leaving bountiful harvests in its wake. For this, it has thus earned 2 names. One is Guardian of the Field, and the other is Great Landorus, which is incredibly fitting, because
Styles
today
is
we're
old.
going over its
It's just a
performance in
style,
the competitive
but that's
scene.
still
The
pretty
time has
scary.
finally come to answer this long-awaited question for one of the most notorious
Great
Pokemon of all
Flame
time.
Blade,
And
though.
so,
That's pretty
we
good.
asked, how great was Landorus actually? And in this video, we'll be going over these competitive formats. When Black and White were first released, there was no Landorus incarnated in Landorus Area. Initially, the only one of the two in existence was what would later become known as the incarnate form. However, back then, it was just Landorus. And if you really want to get technical, in the first 6 months of the generation, it was called by its Japanese name, Randorosu. This Pokemon games didn't get simultaneous worldwide releases until Gen 5. Furthermore, Landorus incarnate is generally But in those early days of Gen 5, it had not yet received its hidden ability, Sheer Force, which was what boosted it to such a status. Instead, Landorus made its initial mark with physical moves using another ability, Sand Force, establishing itself as a staple on Sand teams for how it capitalized on the weather from monstrously powerful Sand Earthquake, as well as the perfect coverage move, boosted
Oh, God.
Stonehenge, which slammed through would-be Earthquake answers like Rotom Wash. You couldn't just replace the weather on Lando either. Have fun switching your Polytoad into such a powerful Earthquake, let alone Ninetales. Abomasnow was rare,
Got
still
an
prone to weak,
ancient
and got hit
fucking
hard by
spear
Earthquake
from-
anyway. Lando's superb offensive move pool in conjunction with its high attack stat and outstanding 101 speed that gave it an incredibly crucial boost over the tier's litany of base 100 allowed it to run a variety of excellent stats. It was immediately one of the tier's best Scarfers. Its speed crucially gave it the jump on boosted Quiver Dance Volcarona. It had an unusually powerful cleanup loop for a Scarfer since its Earthquake was boosted by Sand, and it maintained momentum since
Oh,
its
right, those
aforementioned
monsters
Superb
only show
It
up.
had one of the best moves in the game, U-Turn. Non-Scarf Landorus sets were also among the metagame's biggest threats.
Wait,
as with
didn't I
Hidden
have
Power
a
Ice off of its solid special
Sheikah
attacks that
battery?
even uninvested, Landorus could even effortlessly clear past Gliscor and Tangrowth,
Where did
which
it
would
go?
otherwise tank its trio of Earthquake, Stone Edge, and U-Turn quite easily. There were two ways Lando could go about it. Either it ditched U-Turn and set up substitutes to fully capitalize on the many switches it caused, ensuring it safely slammed the incoming target with the strongest move possible, or it could run the same moves as its Scarf set, except exchanging the Scarf for an Expert Belt, which allowed it to bluff Scarf and grab 3 kills against unsuspecting opponents thinking it was locked into a certain move. The only Pokemon safe against Lando's Earthquake, Stone Edge, Hidden Power Ice combination were Skarmory and Bronzong, until Landorus Sub and Expert Belt sets started swapping out Stone Edge for
Wait,
SmackDown,
the
which made
family
them
used
and
to
Rotom Wash vulnerable to
give
Earthquake.
milk, but
Thus,
what if
pretty
they
much
give
nothing
armor
switched
now?
into Lando safely. What made Lando particularly terrifying was how it shared pretty much all its checks with
Can't hurt
Sand Rush
chat.
Extra Drill. Thus, when Lando destroyed one of his checks as it did so effortlessly, it wasn't just making itself more dangerous, it was clearing the path for the best late game Pokemon in the tier. Of course, Lando was outstanding even without Extra Drill, and once the latter was banned, it became even more of a threat, especially since it paired so well with another one of OU's scariest, Terrakion. One could attempt to withstand assaults from Sub or E-Belt Lando with the Hippowdon that became popular in the post-Extra Drill metagame, though it required caution. Well, Lando could also slot in Swords Dance if it desired, letting it shred it as well as other checks like Fortress and Slowbro with utter ease. Landorus was pretty much a perfect offensive Pokemon and was a hugely defining force of Black and White 1 OU. Some players thought it was already ban-worthy for how difficult, borderline impossible it was to handle defensively, while at the same time possessing such an offensive shredding speed stat. That was nothing compared with what was about to come. With the release of Black and White 2, Landorus was no longer just Landorus. It was Landorus Incarnate, as opposed to the newly added Landorus Therian. Landorus Incarnate, or Lando I, also gained its hidden ability, Sheer Force, and went from a primarily physical attacker to a primarily special one, with Sheer Force boosting moves with secondary effects, as well as essentially making Life Orb riskless since it removed the item's recoil on boosted moves by the ability. And with the two combined, Lando I became even more threatening, dishing out utterly obscene damage. It wasn't just Earth Power shattering nearly everything without even taking recoil damage, making it infinitely more spammable than Sand Force Life Orb. It was Focus Blast with the same effect, absolutely destroying Skarmory and Rotom Wash, and doing so immediately, with no need to hit them with Smackdown first. Focus Blast was so absurdly powerful that it achieved the astonishing feat of one-hit KOing Ferrothorn of all things. Hidden Power Ice wasn't boosted by Sheer Force, but it was still so well worth the move slot to so effortlessly destroy Gliscor, Dragonite, and of course, the newly added Landorus Therian. Of course, Black and White 2 had also gotten much faster, with the addition of new threats like Keldeo, Tornadus Therian, and Scarf Genesect. Well, Lando I would set up a Rock Polish, and that would be that. It was one of the tier's best wall breakers and sweepers, and with just one set, the only OU viable Pokemon that could withstand its brutal assault were the Laddie twins, and especially defensive Celebi. And this was, of course, incredibly abusable with pursuit support from Landorus Incarnate's best friend, Tyranitar, whose Choice Band set also smashed anyone foolish enough to bring chances to such an overwhelmingly offensive metagame. Cries to ban Lando I arose quickly as the player base became acquainted with how effortlessly it crushed everything in the path, and the issues of its only decent checks being the highly abusable Laddie twin and Celebi was exacerbated by the fact that these were also tasked with answering another threat with barely any checks, Keldeo. The pairing of Lando I and Keldeo alongside T-Tar's Pursuit became the metagame's defining offensive core, easily ripping through just about everything, and it was made a million times worse when Lando I, deciding it didn't need to sweep with Rock Polish, slotted U-Turn back into its move slot, allowing it to bypass Celebi itself and making taking the Laddie twins out even easier. As the player base begged for its ban, Lando I also already so naturally threatening just with these 3 moves that it could easily afford to support his team as well, finding opportunities to do so easily in the game with the many switches in force. With just Earth Power, Focus Splash, HP Ice, and the standard level of support, meaning the Pursuit T-Tar that was going to be on its team anyway, Lando I pretty much invalidated defensive teams entirely. You couldn't run Stall when it was around unless you wanted to get irrevocably thrashed. This was an incredibly unhealthy factor to have in a metagame, and thus Landorus Incarnate was eventually banned from OU. But it wasn't done yet, as Landorus Incarnate even had a solid niche on sand teams and Ubers. Since it could be paired with Sandrush Extra Drill once again, it ran Sand Force to pile on the herd with Earthquake. It was a fantastic leader because Earthquake hit common Arcus for some major damage, and unlike Extra Drill, Lando immediately had the boost, not needing to find a turret of Swords Dance. Landorus was also fast and dangerous even if Sand wasn't up, an advantage which extended to its best trait, outrunning the most popular Scarfer and best Pokemon in the tier, Genesect. This was absolutely incredible to have late game, and so Landorus Incarnate was pretty much a perfect Pokemon in Generation 5. Yeah, so about that Therian form that came around in Black and White 2. Well, it wasn't broken, but its defensive presence did instantly reshape the metagame. Having such a reliable Intimidate user was an enormous relief in fending off the myriad physical threats in the metagame. Dragonite, Garchomp, Technician Brother, and especially Terrakion. In Black and White 1, Terrakion had been considered broken, but in Black and White 2, the very appearance of Lando T put that to rest. Not only did it weaken Terrakion no matter what it did, it also took Stone Edges much better than Gliscor because of Intimidate. In general, even if Lando T did encounter something, though it very often did, simply slowing it down with Intimidate was incredible. Such defensive
I might have a strategy on how to beat those guys.
As chaotic as Gen 5 OU, and thus it became quite easy to slap Lando T onto your team if you weren't abusing its incarnate form instead, of course. It helped that, unlike a defensive Pokemon, Landorus Therian was the furthest thing from weak or passive you could get. Not only did it
I won't need
maintain
any
momentum
attacks,
with
and I can just focus on defense
even without
with
any
this
offensive
strategy.
investment, thanks to a base attack set which rivaled Groudon. The Lando T's utility set was its easiest to use. The player base did not overlook its own potential to be a threat even while Lando I was around. But how excellent Earthquake and Stone Edge's neutral coverage was, Lando T often ran a dangerous dual dance set early on, flexible in whichever matchup it found itself in, either Swords Dancing to rip through both your teams, or Rock Polishing to finish off faster teams much like its incarnate form. The best part was, even when used as an offensive Pokemon, Landorus Therian's natural defensive profile between its typing and Intimidate helped bolster its team's core against major threats like Dragonite, Garchomp, and Terrakion regardless of investment. And this was incredibly valuable for offensive teams which couldn't afford to run truly
There's still the Moblin, and the Moblins can't be hurt by the Karate, which means that will be the sole threat I'll need to worry about,
Players began taking a leap out of the sets Landorus
which is
Incarnate
very
had run in
doable.
its Sandforce stage, and found that Landorus Therian utilized them excellently as well. The Scarf variant took off and became Lando T's most common set full stop, playing similarly with its blend of U-turn spam and late game Earthquake cleanup. Unlike Scarf Lando I, Scarf Lando T didn't have the speed to check
The
both
weather
Florida,
in
but it did switch in much more easily.
Hyrule for this game already doesn't make sense, but I like how Hyrule Rebounds makes it even make less sense.
SmackDown variant. Substitute was easy to
I mean,
use, but
we're gonna get
also
X and
fun
Y
to hold
coordinates
forward slot,
soon,
allowing Lando T to support
so
his team and
we'll
be
finally know how
aggressive
height and
without really
altitude some
giving
of
up
these
much of
mountains
anything.
really are.
Leftovers was always reliable, but Earthquake was
But, like,
popular on the Stealth Rock variant as well, letting it put a
10
serious
degrees
charge into the
Celsius
likes
on
of
a
the
hill,
Unit, a set with Source
top.
Dance, Superpower, and
Come
Fighting
on.
Jet became popular as
That
well,
can't
letting
be
it
right.
shred Skarmory and Rotom-Watch without as much repeated prediction as was required with the SmackDown set. Incidentally, even the SD set ran Hidden Power Ice, but why when a +2 Stone Edge was shattered Gliscor? Simple, because it was far more important to deal with other Landorus Therian as instantly as possible. A great deal of reason Landorus Therian was running Hidden Power Ice has been opposing Landorus Therian. Lando T could mix and match and pretty much do whatever it wanted, and this included the utility set too, which also evolved over time. As great a stealth rocker as Lando T was, some players enjoyed putting Sleep Talk on it to more reliably enter Breloom, especially since there were plenty of other good rockers in the tier. Rocky Helmet also began seeing use, allowing Lando T to play offense while on defense. This went hand in hand with its pivot heavy style, ensuring that even if it took a hard-hitting outrage, it dish out some decent shit in return. Lando T could really do whatever it wanted. For example, its 4th root slot in its Scarf set was so flexible that it sometimes ran proc, or could even slot in something like Punishment to help with its combine uniqueness. But whatever it did, Landorus Therian was the defining piece of Generation 5 OU. And of course, it continues in the Uber, where Lando T was the better of the two forms, as in addition to the solid threat level it poses, it also helped check several of Uber's most dangerous Pokemon. It was superb against non-lava Groudon, did incredibly well against most Zekrom, and even helped slow down the mighty Extreme Killer Arceus. Talk about an incredible lineup of threats to check. It did so while making the most of its excellent base 90 speed, which put it just above the base 90s that define Ubers. And this was a big deal, because the third play led to smash through Dialga thinking it was safe, while also putting a major check in the
Also, I need this one hard.
Another
Alright.
base 90 Holo didn't dare come near Lando T for fear of Stone Edge, as just like its incarnate form, Lando T was pretty much perfect in its own way. It came in halfway through the generation and was one of its most impactful regardless.
Alright. Lando T. Now, you may wonder why you're here. Well, that's because this one is personal. Listen, I've been writing for this channel for 6 years at this point, and I don't think there's a single Pokemon named I will take out more this
Might as well just beat this guy up along with the mob and Mono. We should have a short attention span.
I ended up with 313 instances of this thing's being separate franchises, 306 appearances. Oh, and that's without this script. This is by far the most script I've ever done. You thought I took notes on 331 links for a single video. For a second and 76 pages for just AJC. For you, Reddit is dead, but it is finally here. So I hope you have a glass of water ready, Kelly, because this one's gonna Really? After I've thrown all that, we're just gonna... Nope. Not right now, No, you are dealing with this. There is no turning back.
Oh man, I'm scared.
It's actually not that. But after that, you better buckle up. But yeah, in 2011. You know what, I'll just let you figure it out.
That would be because for the first 2 years of its existence, Landorus was actually playing not just second, but third fiddle to its two underlings. Keep in mind that this is before the advent of Black and White 2 and the Therian form. And while Landorus has got a sweet 20 base stat difference over them, it was missing out in two important areas, speed and ability. With second and third abilities still just a far-off dream, Landorus was locked into Sand Force, in a meta with no Sand Setters to be found. The Unova Dex is conspicuously lacking a Sandstream mod, leaving Landorus essentially Sand's ability from all of the 2011 format. Meanwhile, Thundurus and Tornadus get to gallivant around with one of the absolute best abilities in the game, Prankster, spamming Thunder Waves and Swaggers and Tailwinds to their heart's content. These genies were stat-wise the best Pokemon in the game, which is precisely the reason why every single top 8 team at Worlds included at least one of them, and 5 teams went double genie. Lando's abilities didn't match up, both the other genies were immune to the stat, and it sported a delicious 4 times ice weakness that rendered it prone to a hidden power ice to the face, courtesy of Thundurus' 10 speed difference. So instead, Landorus waited on the sidelines, watching its other genies warp the meta entirely, and dreamed of a day when it could have a similar impact. 2012 would not quite be that year. The return of T-Card did give Landorus some forces to at least use its ability, but with the benefits of one single legendary came the detriment of another, Garchomp,
These
with
things
better
sure are
bulk,
tough.
higher attack, and the golden 1.4 of base speed, as well as another Sand benefiting ability and the same 4 times ice weakness. It was easy to see Garchomp as just better Landorus when it came to firing off Earthquakes. What that meant is that those who did make Landorus work took advantage of something else that made it special. Literally. Landorus could function fairly well on the special side as well, dodging intimidates and making use of thunder coverage. And while it didn't boast the same power as Garchomp, special Landorus was still more than capable of dishing out damage. One of the first players to innovate this type of set was beloved community member and competitor Angel Makoto Masaka Miranda. Even if Landorus doesn't have lower appendages, as far as we can tell, the set proved it had legs, as evidenced by Dewey Ha's 4th place at the San Jose Regionals, Luke Swenson's top 8 at the US Nationals, and Stefan Marla's 1st place in German Nationals. These players use moves like Grass Knot and Hidden Power to achieve coverage no physical Landorus or guard shot could dream of. These Landos often opted for Expert Belt for additional firepower, or Yashberry to patch up the glaring weak spot. Keep in mind that Sheer Force wasn't out yet, so the unmitigated power of Life Form wasn't available. But Landorus still often played like a worse version of Guard Chop or Thunderous, and as the season rolled on towards Worlds, players opted to use those Pokemon instead. Even with its partner in crime Tyranitar appearing in 5 of the world's top 8 teams, Landorus didn't have a single showing, and so it spent yet another year languishing in the dark. In the lore, it's supposed to be the leader of this trio, so why is Thunderous getting all the spotlight? Friendship ended with Thunderous, now T-Tar is my best friend. Envy festered and bloomed, consuming Landorus, until an extraordinary transformation took place, and a monster was born. Now this is the face you know, and this is not the face of mercy. In fact, Landorus' face is so scary you might call it intimidating. Armed with a boost to its already amazing attack and an absolutely busted ability, Landorus used 2013 to assume its rightful place as king of not only the Genies, but all of VGC. It now could both out-damage and out-utility Garchomp, finally giving it the niche it had desired. The only drawbacks of turning into whatever animal Landorus is supposed to be are a dent in the special attack and speed department, but players quickly figured out that Landorus during middling speed could be patched up with a Choice Scarf. Early users of Landorus during often focused on its attacking prowess, an understandable angle, giving the whopping 145 base attack. If you were getting off Earthquakes next to a ground immune Pokemon, chances are things were going well. Earthquake was mandatory, as was U-turn to Psycho Intimidate, and a Rock type move to hit opposing Genies and Zapdos. Which Rock move was dealer's choice? Rock Slide gave access to incredible dream-breaking potential with Scarf flinches and better accuracy, but left Landorus prone to being intimidated itself or walled via Wide Guard. As an example of just how big the decision could be, Stone Edge could guarantee a one-hit KO against common opposing Thunderous Incarnate spreads, while Rock Slide would always miss out. The final moves were an interesting
It was! I'm so stupid. Nice. Well, unfortunately, you were mean, so I had my initial bad impression of you is bad. Bad impression of you is bad. Yes. Hell yeah. I got the helmet. I believe the Panzer, the Hinox then, because I thought it was the helmet. Regardless, this is very big.
opposing Thunderous Incarnate spreads, while Rock Slide would always miss out. The final moves were an interesting choice. Superpower was good, sure, but not especially relevant in the meta. And using Fly with a Scarf set is like trying to cut your hair with a butter knife. Everyone knows how it's going to end, and it's a huge waste of time. Explosion was one other fairly common choice, though sometimes prone to disaster if used it to protect. As the format evolved, players
don't you want to see a fire god?
Careful Choice Band started to make an appearance, a set that took advantage of Landorus' bulk and Intimidate to get off even more powerful attacks. Some players adapted to Focus Sash, which had the benefit of protecting Landorus against opposing Star sets and allowed it to run Protect in the final slot. In a team composition, Landorus made for a very strong check to physical fighting types, Excadrill and Metagross, as well as a potent offensive threat of its own. From the beginning, Landorus 3 put up good showings at nationals around the world, earning
I can buy it from Beedle, but
top 8 finishes.
that's
Aaron
not
Zhang
worth
with
it.
one early convert, replacing his own Garchomp with Landorus and leaving with no regrets. threats. For now, I'll still shout out these players, the early adopters, those who saw the shape of things to come. And the U.S. Nationals, Harris's Sailors secured a 6th place finish by pairing Lando with the lesser seen Tornadus. In Australia, Peter Seal used Latios as his earthquake immunity for a top 4 finish, and over in Europe, Miguel T, Luigi Lo Guidice, and Lorenzo Galassi all achieved top 8s at the Italy and Germany Nationals with a mix of Pokemon such as Cresselia, Hydreigon, and Rotom W. Special mention to Jamal El Motaikil for his silver medal at the German Nationals, and Michael Riker for placing top 8 at both Nationals. By the time Worlds rolled around, Landorus had established himself as the premier intimidator in the format and one of the biggest physical threats, especially when paired with an earthquake-immune Pokemon like Cresselia, Rotowash, or perhaps most notably, Thundurus. Allow me to introduce you
I wanna
to
try
the
something.
genies of healthy meta. You're gonna get used to seeing them. That's right, Lando and Thundy were cool again, and Tyranitar is the 3rd bro now. Sorry, Tornadus. Thundurus covered the water types that Landorus struggled with very well, while Landorus's Intimidate helped Thundurus survive as well. Both packed utility and power in a nice little package. As mentioned before, Landorus was capable of performing with any
Whoa,
ground
I can.
especially with the #1 usage mod, Cresselia. But keep Thundurus in mind, these two are in it for the long haul. When it came to Worlds, Landorus Therian was one of the most used Pokemon in the top 8, notching 2nd, 3rd, and 7th place finishes thanks to Ryosuke Kosuge, Aaron Zhang, and Luigi Logiunice. Aaron and Ryosuke used the same Landori, all year long, and in fitting with the rest of their teams, the sets were nearly identical. Adamant, as fast and as powerful as possible, with a Focus Sash, 3 attacks, and Protect. The only difference was that Aaron opted for Rock Slide, while Ryosuke valued Stone Edge for the Thundurus knockout. For what it's worth, Aaron didn't miss Stone Edge at all until facing down Ryosuke's own bulky Thundurus in the semis, where it did make a difference. But that set came down to some other things. Landorus Therian slotted in at 3rd in overall world usage, tied with Landorus Incarnate. Therian might have been the hot new thing on the block, but Landorus Incarnate had its own shiny toys to play with, namely Sheer Force, which gave it an even bigger power boost than Sand Force and allowed it to use Life Orb for absolutely no drawback. While the rest of the world was fawning over Therian Intimidate, Gavin Michaels put the world on notice of what he considered was the superior Landorus form at US Nats, where he defied the doubters and piloted Landorus Incarnate to a 1st place finish, using a special Sheer Force Landorus that leveraged its great coverage via a moveset of Earth Power, Psychic, and Hidden Power Ice. Earth Power was self-explanatory and gave an edge over physical sets in that it could be used with impunity, no matter the teammate, meaning Gavin was free to run a team with no ground immunities. Psychic provided for great neutral coverage and one-hit KOs on 2 of the meta's biggest threats in Amoonguss and Conkeldurr, and finally Hidden Power Ice was the perfect tool to dispatch any Therian pretenders while rubbing the 10 speed advantage in their face. While Incarnate didn't quite achieve the same results as Therian throughout the year, it was able to reach equal usage at Worlds with its bestial counterpart, and even notched 1 top 8 appearance of its own, courtesy of Matthias Helmo, who used it to become the first German master to ever top cut Worlds. And what that means is that if you count the forms together, Landorus was the most used Pokemon in top 8, which you probably shouldn't, but you could. While Landorus finished out Worlds without a trophy to its name, a post-Worlds tournament soon rectified that. Credit to familiar face Sajin Park, who won the Invitational Korean Legend Cup with his own Landorus Therian. It was a nice consolation prize for a year in which Landorus had been great, but not overwhelming. And for that, you should be thankful, because it won't last long. Right from day 1 of Generation 6, Landorus Incarnate and its Sheer Force antics established it as among the tier's most dangerous. Once again, Rock Polish and Stealth Rock were both outstanding, but Lando I also had several excellent new tools to play with. The Lati Twins wanted to switch into it even less since it now brandished a buff knockoff that would utterly decimate them. Of course, it didn't need to do this if it had its favorite bit of support waiting in the back, that of course being Pursuit. Lando I also started running Psychic quite often, allowing it to blast through Mega Venusaur with greater reliability. As the generation progressed, Rock Slide began seeing use as it smashed through the specially defensive Talonflame, Assault Vest Tornadus Therian, and even the Mega Charizard Y that could check it otherwise. Furthermore, as Clefable became more and more effective and popular, Lando I adapted by incorporating Sludge Wave, which brutalized Clefable with ease. Countering Lando I by itself was already near impossible enough, and it made running Stall and Balance a risky, arguably foolish gambit, to say nothing of how impossible it was to handle when paired with Tyranitar, which ensured even desperate Stall teams running Cresselia would get destroyed. It took some time as there were more pressing threats to deal with for much of Gen 6 beforehand, which is an amazing thought, considering how utterly insane Lando I is. But sometime into ORAS, Landorus Incarnate received the ban hammer once again. Lando I wasn't quite as good in Ubers this time around. It wasn't bad, but since weather was no longer permanent, it couldn't reprise its previously superb niche of Scarf Sandforce. The complete lack of defensive utility was also undesirable in a metagame with such volatility, especially when its role of being a powerful special attacker was less impressive by comparison to the pokes around it. However, on occasion, Lando I could shine. It was incredibly difficult to wall with knockoff for the laddies, Sludge Wave for Arceus Grass, and Rock Slide for Ho-Oh. Plus, its guard power was so strong, it could pull off the incredible achievement of one-hit KOing Primal Groudon. Getting it on the field was somewhat of a challenge. It pretty much only switched into Klefki safely, so its niche was limited, but it was a niche. Once again, Landorus Styrian helped define OU with its defensive presence, a bulky Pokemon that supported its team without being passive. Its Stealth Rock and Scarf sets were metagame staples. The bulky Rocker was a great answer to threats like Talonflame and Mega Mawile, while the Scarf set prevented threats like Dragon Dad's Mega Tyranitar from getting out of hand. Lando T was particularly amazing because by checking something and forcing it out, it would then get a free U-turn, which it could use to safely bring in its own threatening teammates. Afterward, teammates would once again fall back on it, rinse and repeat. It was pretty much perfect team support. Lando T was also one of the tier's most reliable stealth rockers because it repeatedly switched into Rapid Spin Extra Drill, even punishing its spins with Rocky Helmet. While the Laddie twins would not want to risk its hard-hitting U-turn to get a defog off, Intimidate and Rocky Helmet once again allowed it to help its team play around nearly everything, even if Lando T itself couldn't fully counter it, providing a crucial blend of defense and offense while pivoting in the face of devastating threats like Mega Metagross and Mega Charizard X. Lando T's Intimidate was such an amazing tool, it even found itself switching into the physically offensive water type Azumarill and Mega Gyarados. When people said Lando T countered everything, they weren't really exaggerating too much. Of course, Landorus Styrian was a massive threat in its own right beyond just potential late-game Scarf Earthquake cleanups, and after the Landorus Incarnate ban, this was recognized as players began making the most of it. This could be seen in many forms. For example, when Mega Sableye was annoying OU by blocking hazards everywhere, Lando T simply slapped Swords Dance onto its bulky rock set, and Mega Sableye wouldn't want to come near it, nor would its friends Defog, Skarmory, and Zapdos for that matter, lest they get hit by Smackdown. However, the set that really began to take off was the Double Dancer, whose ability to take over the late game provided a crucial advantage in offense-on-offense matchups. Many offensive teams' best physical check was their own Scarf Landorus Styrian, which ironically would prove to be their downfall, as it was nothing more than setup fodder for the Double Dancer. Other popular physical checks on offense didn't do so well either. Rotom Wash and Tank Garchomp were felled by boosted Stone Edges and Earthquake. With all the opportunities it got to switch in, it wasn't uncommon for Lando to wall break for itself, then come back and grab the game-winning Rock Polish. Once the opposing team was weakened, it wouldn't need to boost its attack. After all, even something as naturally bulky as Keldeo is a stunning 79 to 92% from an Earthquake-boosted Earthquake. Other sets were experimented with. Lando T took its old Smackdown sets a step further by using Gravity, which completely ruined Skarmory and Rotom Wash's ability to withstand its Earthquake, not even letting them attempt to win a prediction war as they could against Smackdown, while also ensuring other Pokemon like Tornado Styrian, the Laddie Twins, Gliscor, and of course, opposing Lando T couldn't pivot in either. Of course, Gravity applied to Lando T's own team as well, so it had to ensure its team wouldn't crumble to opposing Earthquakes while Gravity was in effect. But this was easily solved by pairing it with Tankro. Furthermore, Gravity boosted its accuracy, so Lando T even provided team support by using it. For example, its teammate Tornado Styrian would be able to span Hurricane without fear of its low accuracy. A substitute Toxic Sec was briefly used as well, reliably ruining otherwise solid switches like Tank Growth and Slowbro. Most of the time, Landorus Styrian was going to use a bulky set or its Scarf variant, but it could really do pretty much whatever it wanted to great effect, as it was one of OU's most defining forces. Landorus Styrian was excellent in Ubers once again, this time utilizing its Scarf set. Like a Swiss Army knife, it pivoted in and out of battle, switching into and threatening tier staples like Klefki and Primal Groudon with its powerful Earthquake, taking advantage of the switch-ins enforced with U-turn, which also doubled as an excellent move with which it could threaten the Laddie Twins, Darkrai, and Mega Mewtwo Y, using Intimidate to help thwart threats like Rayquaza, Extreme Killer Arceus, and Mega Salamence, and generally providing a beautiful blend of defense and offense. It helped this team survive against opposing onslaughts, and while doing so, helped weaken the opposing team into cleanup range. It was a fixture on popular, successful balanced spikes offenses for this incredible utility on both sides of the spectrum. It even did amazing
Yes.
things like hitting Arceus Rock incredibly hard, even after a Calm Mind boost, and outspeeding it while doing so. A combination of traits just about impossible to come by otherwise. So overall, Landorus was pretty much a perfect Pokemon across both forms, once again in Generation 6. Now here's an excerpt from an article written at the beginning of the 2015 VGC season, giving a summary of the new meta in its early stages, and about Landorus Therian's first foray into the Mega Evolution meta. Quote, a dominating force in VGC 2013, Landorus is still a very good Pokemon in 2015. It doesn't feel like it has quite the impact it once had thanks to an increase in Pokemon that can knock it out with neutral attacks, competitive Milotic, and an increase in the use of Flight Guard, but it should still stay one of the format's most common Pokemon. End quote. A considered, well-reasoned, totally inoffensive take that still ended up far from the truth. Because here's the thing, 2015 might be Landorus' best meta ever. If you've ever looked at the world's top 8 for this year, you know what I'm talking about. But it doesn't do justice to the deep, all-reaching influence Landorus had on the metagame. While it's true that there was an overall increase in the meta's power level, Landorus found itself perfectly positioned as both support and check to the most important mons in 2015, the Megas. Landorus is one of the absolute best answers to Mega Kangaskhan in the game, as it can intimidate Kangaskhan, threaten it with superpower, and resist power-up punches. Meanwhile, it shouldn't take much investigation to see why a fast physical attacker who loves to click Rock Slide would be a good answer to Charizard Y. Funnily enough, that also made Landorus one of Charizard's best partners. First, because it could click Earthquake freely, and second, because it was the best answer to itself. While Mega Metagross and Mega Mawile could both be Intimidate immune before Mega evolving, a well-pivoted Landorus was so certainly capable of whittling down their offenses, and it boasted a powerful Stab Earthquake to threaten them out as well. Sure, there were other Megas that had better matchups, Gardevoir and Salamence being the most notable, as they were capable of simply blowing up Landorus. But Landorus had a good matchup on the vast majority of the Mega meta, as well as the regular meta, where it thrived against Pokemon like Terrakion, Thundurus, and Steel types like Heatran and Aegislash, who became more popular with the introduction of Fairy types. Finally, Landorus got a huge buff to one of its attacking options in Knockoff, which was now a premier attacking option and a great answer into pesky Cresselia. Landorus hit the ground running, or rather, it didn't hit the ground, but it still proceeded to move forward in a rapid and efficient fashion. While Lando had struggled to win Gold Hardware in 2013, it won 3 regionals in just the first month of competition, thanks to Aaron Trailer, Wolf Glick, and Alberto Lara. While Wolf and Alberto both used the more popular Scarf Landorus in U-turn, Aaron opted for Assault Vest and packed both Superpower and Knockoff, foregoing U-turn entirely. To be honest, this is a testament to how capable Landorus Therian was. Aaron himself said that it actually had negative synergy with his team due to his use of Unaware Clefable, but it still ended up being the best pick he could have chosen. And Landorus wasn't just winning, it was ubiquitous. First, second, third, and fifth place in St. Louis, first, fourth, seventh, and eighth in SoCal, third, sixth, eighth in Virginia, you get the point. It wasn't uncommon to see all 3 top teams of a tournament have Landorus, like in Italy, where Giovanni Milani's regional win saw his podium place flanked by 2 other Landos, or in Melbourne, where Chris Giagazoglu saw the same story play out. It's paired with Kangaskhan, Gardevoir, Salamence, Metagross, Mawile, Charizard, and in Wolf's case, Bandit. It's at this point that it doesn't make any more sense for me to keep naming players who succeeded with it, because to be honest, you weren't special if you did. Around the world, Landorus was winning half the regionals and on half the top cut teams, thriving in basically any team you wanted. For sand teams, it was immune to sand. For sun teams, it was the best sand counter around, able to resist weather with U-turn, fly over earthquakes, and intimidate their big hitters. It was definitely the strongest non-Mega Pokemon in the entire format, and any thoughts that it might not be as good as in 2013 were quickly silenced. If anything, Landorus' dominance only grew with time. At the German Nationals, Landorus was on a staggering 7 out of the top 8 teams. Maybe even more astonishing, it was on 22 of the top 32 teams in the tournament, making it by far the most used Pokemon around. Landorus Therian won 5 different Nationals that year: Italy, Germany, UK, Japan, and the US, thanks to Francisco Pardini, Marcus Statter, Marcus Steffen, Shoma Honami, and Toller Webb, with a variety of different team compositions. While Landorus Therian might have stayed consistent, its sense did not. Throughout
of the year, the metagame shifted to be slightly bulkier, and smart Landorus players innovated spreads that let it survive key hits while still dishing out damage and pivoting effectively. Trainers started to invest in defense to survive +1 life orb Bisharp Sucker Punch, whose Defiant made it a frequent answer. Mamoswine Ice Shard was also something to consider. Special defense EVs also let Landorus deal with those pesky opposing other halves of the genius of healthy meta. While Earthquake, a rock move, and Superpower were on every set, the last move swung drastically with time. Early sets favored U-turn for momentum, but soon opposing Scarfers were rendering Lando's own Scarf worthless by surprise KOing it before it could switch. As time went on, many players adjusted to Knockoff, relying on hard switching to cycle Intimidate and utilizing Knockoff's utility to scout other players' items, crucial in a closed sheet best-of-3 format. Knockoff was also a huge boon for partners such as Kangaskhan, who appreciated the removal of items like Citrus Berry and Rocky Helmet. Some players, such as the US Nationals runner-up Rafael Bagara, even experimented with Choice Band, which allowed him to make his Landorus even more bulky than usual by moving around attack EVs. Angel Miranda, ever the Landorus innovator, brought his signature mixed Landorus to Nationals and placed 7th, running Life Orb with Earth Power, Hidden Power Ice, Stone Edge, and Protect. Even in a field of Landos, players found a way to stand out, and going into Worlds, the metagame still seemed quite open. And then, shock. Cresselia, Heatran, Amoonguss, Landorus, Kangaskhan, the premier Japanese team composition, and the one that swept the entirety of World's top 8. Just below that, an ocean of diverse teams, but in top 8, it was chalk all the way down. But if you take a look closely, you'll notice something. Most of the chalk members were somewhat flexible. Cresselia could be Sylveon, Heatran could be another fire type like Volcarona or Entei, Amoonguss could be Aegislash, and some players even opted to hit on the special side of the spectrum and use Mega Gardevoir instead of Mega Kang. In fact, only 3 of the top 8 teams, champions Shoma Honamis, as well as those of the 5th placer Daiki Moriyama and 7th place Hayato Takahashi, were true chalk. The comps may have looked similar, but there were subtle differences, the beautiful minutiae that make Pokemon Pokemon. But one Pokemon was still on every team, and that was Landorus Therian. To date, Landorus Therian's usage in 2015 is the only time one Pokemon has been on every team at World's Top 8. It mustered an unheard of 57% usage, 15% over the next most used Pokemon in Heatran. Remember how I said earlier that Landorus was the undisputed best non-Mega in 2015? Scratch that, it was the undisputed best, no qualifier necessary. What's really interesting though is the type of Landorus that made up that top 8. Most of the Landorus that we've talked about before at this point were Scarf, but Japan did things differently. Shoma Honami, coming from a victory at Japanese National Win World, used Assault Vest Landorus. Since the meta had become more bulky, the extra speed wasn't needed, and Assault Vest let it match up even better into special attackers like Charizard, Sylveon, and Gardevoir. In order after Shoma, the Landorus items were Focus Sash, Life Orb, Yacht Berry, Assault Vest 2 more times, another Life Orb, and finally, Leo's Woltersdorf's Choice Band. Nary a Scarf in sight. Assault Vest Lando quickly became all the rage for the rest of the format, with Intimidate on one side and Assault Vest on the other. Landorus was able to stick around for ages, allowing its partners to do the heavy offensive lifting. Of course, one mon that was entirely dedicated to offense was Landorus Incarnate. Sheer Force was unattainable at this point, but that didn't stop Incarnate from mustering some very respectable results in 2015. It shouldn't surprise you at this point to hear that Angel Miranda was the first player to give it some notoriety. The mixed Landorus Therian he had used at Nats was directly adapted from his bronze medal Georgia Regionals team, which used Expert Belt Incarnate alongside T-Tar. Aaron Zeng would go on to use the exact same Incarnate Landorus for a 4th place at Nationals. While this version didn't have the utility or defensive matchups that Therian did, it actually meant that it matched up better into, well, Landorus Therian, as well as any other anti-physical measures that teams have locked up. Landorus Incarnate could threaten KO onto Therian with HP Ice, while not very much reprisal, and the fact that it was primarily a special attacker meant it could ignore Intimidate when going for kills on Heatran and Aegislash. Even at -1, and with a timid nature, Stone Edge was enough to KO any Charizard. Incarnate was in the same ways a more reliable attacker than Therian, but without the same ability to function in every matchup. It didn't love Kangaskhan, for example, a nice niche pick that could function at a very high level when piloted correctly. But no one could deny that 2015 was Landorus Therian's year, whether its competition was Mega Kangaskhan, Landorus Incarnate, Garchomp, or anything else.
Looks like Shoma most likely to pull this off, and we see him run.
There it is, guys. Both players shaking hands, and Shoma Honami is your 2015 Pokemon Video Game World champion as he celebrates it again. Passes out, no shoes, knocked his shoes right off. He's done, folks. He is done.
However, 2016 brought steeper competition in the form of a restricted meta. GS Cup's landscape meant there was a high presence of several Pokemon who either threatened to blow past its Intimidate, wall it outright, or both. But Landorus is nothing if not crafty, and when faced with a new situation, it will find a way to adapt, overcome, and succeed. It had one very, very good thing for it, an incredible matchup into Primal Groudon, who it could hammer with Intimidate and do heavy damage to it with Earthquake. Once it did that, there was no guaranteeing it stuck around. So while bulky Landers had just been on the upswing, 2016 was big damage all the time. Choice Band or Life Orb used as a one-time check that could swing momentum, do huge damage, and consider the job done. One player took that one-and-done mentality to the very limit. Wolf Glick, who gave Landorus one of its only wins of 2016 at Florida Regionals with a Bandit Explosion set. The rest was standard, Rock Slide, U-Turn, and of course Earthquake, but Wolf would use Explosion next to his Telepathy Dialga. 13 massive damage on the other team with no casualties on his own side. The big benefit here was that even if the other side protected, it just allowed Wolf to click Trick Room, opening up the door for big sweeps from the rest of his team. Landorus saw a few other regional top cuts throughout the year, but nothing with as big a bang as Wolf's win. Kyogre was his most frequent partner by far, and a few other players used Dialga Landorus, but none were able to win a gold. And Landorus found himself appearing in fewer and fewer top 8s as time went on. At Worlds, it only managed one notable result in the entire competition. Matthias Sutodowski's 60th place on a Ray Ogre team. Landorus actually did better after Worlds when Matthias used the same team to win Dortmund Regionals and Sage Park snatched first at the Korean Autumn League. But it ended 2016 a far cry away from his 2015 greatness. Still, it's pretty admirable that even in a meta so unkind to it, Landorus was able to find the path to victory. The OU player base finally learned its lesson in Generation 7, and while they did release Landorus Incarnate, now universally viewed as an obvious Uber back into OU, they kept their eye on it and quickly determined it had no place in the tier. It was banned almost instantly, only following Zygarde Complete and Aegislash. In its brief time in the tier, it delighted in earth-powering Magearna and Toxapex's Lights Out, while smashing every ground resist with ease. Tapu Bulu got sludge-waved into oblivion, Mantine got rock slided, so on and so forth. Sadly, Lando I was thoroughly mediocre in Ubers this time around. It could be threatening, but it wasn't special in that regard, and thus it just wasn't worth using something with such a crippling inability to switch in. It could threaten some teams, so it did technically have a niche, just not one that was going to bring in high-level usage. Still a worthwhile trade-off for it to finally achieve that well-deserved quick ban. After Landorus Incarnate's metaphorical 15 minutes of terrorizing OU were over, players turned to Landorus Therian, which really took off in usage. Now that may seem obvious, but even by Lando T's standards, it was getting used a lot in Gen 7. At its peak, it was on over 70% of teams. That is absolutely absurd. So why was Lando T so common, and presumably so good as to make it so common? Well, right off the bat, everyone was enamored with the possibilities of the Z-move Sun and Moon had introduced, and Landorus Therian immediately established himself as one of the best Z-move users around, with both Brachioum and Flynium Z. Whether it was unboosted or raising its attack to nosebleed heights with Swords Dance, the raw power of Landorus T's Stone Edge turned Continental Crush or Fly turned Supersonic Sky Strike utterly devastated pretty much anything that wanted to switch into its powerful Earthquakes. Earthquake, Swords Dance, and Fly or Stone Edge only took up 3 move slots too, so what else did Lando T do? Capitalize on its natural defensive presence as well as the switches enforced when threatening these insanely powerful attacks, and throw on Stealth Rock, of course, becoming one of the tier's best and most reliable users of the move. Since Supersonic Sky Strike sets had the built-in power of Stab on their Z-move, they often exude the extra boost of Swords Dance in order to include U-Turn, giving Lando T even more flexibility. As if all that wasn't enough depth to its Z-move sets alone, Flynium Z Lando T could also choose, depending on the needs of its team, to shift away from the all-out offensive approach in favor of a bulkier spread, allowing it to both tank hits for one of the scariest sweepers around, Hawlucha, and use the Z-move to actually KO it back. Of course, as amazing as Z Landorus Therian was, in true Lando T fashion, it also ran several other excellent common sense. It could run an offensive Z Stealth Rock style set, but with Earthquake in lieu of the Z Crystal. This didn't just free a teammate to run Z, though that was of course a great benefit, but the extra boost to Earthquake was incredibly important for luring and destroying, of all things, Toxapex. It may seem weird, but Toxapex's MO was to stay in and survive moves as strong as Adamant, Landorus, Styrian, Earthquake, and to go for a skull. Either way, it would regenerate off the damage, and if it got the burn, Lando T was ruined. Thus, in a one-on-one situation, offensive Lando T actually ran away from Toxapex until it slapped on Earthquake and blasted the Sea Urchin into smithereens. Stealth Rock Lando T could go all-out defensive too, commonly running Iapapa Berry as its item. This was incredible for effectively giving Lando T a second life, making it even better at playing around monstrous threats like Kartana and Mega Mawile over the course of the game. Of course, Rock's Lando T could go even more offensive than its Z-move counterparts. It could function as an effective suicide lead for hyper-offense teams, and with its high speed and imprison, it could block Stealth Rock from bulkier Stealth Rockers like Gliscor. Alternatively, it could use Rock Tomb, with the speed drop effect allowing it to ruin defog attempts from Landorus Styrian. Either way, Lando T was a champ at setting up its own rocks and getting the game off to a bang with Explosion, chunking the opposition and setting the tempo for his teammates to follow up and hit fast and hard. Finally, Choice Scarf came back, as always, and was always a contender for Lando T's most popular set. In Ultra Sun and Moon, Lando T gained defog, as if it didn't have all the utility in the world already. Both sets were more concerned with setting rocks itself, but defog fit perfectly onto the Scarf set. It wasn't meant to be a reliable method of keeping hazards off, just a move that could help out far more than any alternative. Plus, to nobody's surprise, even Scarf Lando T was a fairly reliable defogger, since it switched in so much and forced so many switches. Plus, the incredibly common Stealth Rock Heatran didn't exactly want to switch into it, meaning that Lando T's team would commonly be playing without rocks for at least a few turns. Once again, Landorus Styrian was one of the best, most common, and defining OU Pokemon around. It wasn't just good, but amazing at pretty much everything it did, and it did a lot of different things, which is why its usage was so high so consistently. And for the first time, Landorus Incarnate was the better of the two Lando forms and Ubers. Lando T didn't have any niche at all, finding itself largely outclassed by Arceus Ground, one of the best Pokemon in the tier. Most notably, it was a much better answer to the newly threatening Zygarde Complete than Landorus Styrian was. Klefki and the Lati twins disappearing from the tier was bad news for it as well. Scarf Lando T was no longer at all impressive in the new tier. So yes, we finally found the flaw. After 3 generations, one of Landorus's 2 forms was unviable in Ubers. But even then, it wasn't the one that was actually Uber itself, so it's not like it was supposed to. Thus, it maintains its streak of being a perfect Pokemon. Remember how I was feeling bad for Landorus after 2016, waxing poetic about its decline, making it seem like it might be on a downswing? Spoiler alert, we were only at page 29 of the notes, with 47 more to go. Landorus is not going to go out that easy. In Gen 6, it was the fact that Landorus adapted so well to Megas. Well, Megas are still here, and Landorus is actually able to use this generation's signature mechanic. Burning a Z-move on Earthquake gives you one of the strongest single-target moves in the game, capable of obliterating anything that doesn't resist it. If there is any criticism of Therian's attacking prowess, is that you need to play it alongside a ground immunity for max value. But Z-Crystal solved that problem in a most elegant way, giving it the single-target ground stab it always wanted. In fact, Landorus's Tectonic Rage was so powerful that it allowed for bulkier EV spreads, similar to the idea of the Careful Bandit sets from years back. As for the metagame, Landorus certainly doesn't mind a large Tapu Koko presence, nor the prevalence of Megazard Y, who was still an incredible partner and hated seeing Landorus itself. Bulu was its biggest check due to grassy terrain, but the fact that Bulu was not very good was a pretty big boon. Tapu Fini could also present problems, as many bulky water types had in the past, but Landorus's upsides were too many to ignore. As you might expect at this point, there were multiple strong ways to run Landorus. Assault Vesto provided the dual defensive boost that had been relevant last time it was in a Megas metagame with non-restricted, and Koko ratcheting up the speed tier meant there was more value to Scarf these days as well. In the end, Assault Vest was the most popular variant, with Groundium right behind. What's more, 2018 was a meta full of 50% pinch variants, meaning access to knockoff was a huge boon no matter which set you were running. Landorus Day was basically Mr. Potato Head. Pick an assortment of moves and items, slap them on, and it's probably going to look good. Again, there were simply too many players who found success with Landorus to name, so instead I'll give you numbers. In 2018, Landorus Day won 17 out of the 35 special events, 12 out of the 38 regionals, and 3 out of the 4 international championships. That is an almost 50% first place rate across all pre-Worlds events and 7,300 champion points just from first places, aka enough champion points to establish a micronation of Landori and have 18 of them qualify to Worlds. A few trends during the season to talk about. Early on in the season, Blake Hopper and Colin Hare created a Bulu and Landorus team that used a mixed Assault Vest Landorus with Earth Power and Sludge Bomb to negate grassy terrain's downside and handle the opposing fairy teams. Blake got 5th with this at Dallas Regionals, and a couple mixed Landos showed up after that, including the Scarf Fairy and Wolf Glick used on his own Bulu and Charizard X team to win the Charlotte Regionals. Adrian Sigler's Portland Regionals first place team went back to Assault Vest, as did the mixed set Landorus Carson Comfort used to win Sao Paulo International. Carson also integrated another new tech that a few players had seen success with, Rock Tube, which opened up speed control for slower Pokemon on this team to wreak havoc. Speaking of internationals, Jeremy Rodriguez had his own innovation in the team he crafted to win North American Internationals, Swords Dance. Jeremy's Landorus can be very OP. Boost them and drop a Swords Dance boost to Tectonic Rage, or even Earthquake next to his Rotom Age and Drift Blimp. With Tailwind in play, he only used 2 attacking moves, focusing on setting up and unleashing big damage. As for the last Internationals winner, Alessio Yuri Boschetto won Oceania Internats with a standard Scarf 4 attack set, meaning Landorus won each of the Internats with a different item, a testament to its versatility you can't deny. Makes you wonder why Simone Savito didn't use, I don't know, Bandit Landorus to win EUIC. Slacking. There's also one other big meta development we need to talk about. It's the most important moment in 2018 history, if not VGC history. In March, another Intimidator started to crowd out the results graphic, and I think you might know who. That's right, with the release of its hidden ability, Incineroar had officially made its grand entrance. You might think that the birth of arguably the greatest Intimidator to ever do it would hamper Landorus, but it was just the opposite. While Landorus didn't appreciate being intimidated, Tectonic Rage was so powerful that it could one-hit kill Incineroar even through an Intimidate, wanted to live in a cat-free zone. But the bigger deal was actually the synergy that Landorus had with Incineroar, not really as an attacking duo, but as an endlessly pivoting Intimidator. Incineroar was the utility, and Landorus was the damage. When U-turn, Landorus and Incineroar could repeatedly wear down the opponent's attacking stats, taking only negligible damage on the switch and facilitating an attacking partner. This was especially true with the Assault Vest sets, although Choice Scarf made using U-turn easier. Instant Landorus quickly established itself as one of the strongest cores of the format, infuriating opponents with ease as they swapped over and over. Round and round the Intimidators go. Where they stop, nobody knows. When all was said and done, Landorus went into Worlds as the most used Pokemon in the format. Although if Incineroar had come out a bit earlier, it likely would have lost its crown. And after the dust had settled, it was the cat who was king. Paul Ruiz became Latin America's first world champion with an Incineroar and no Landorus third, although runner-up Emilio Forbes used both. In total, there were still 6 Landorus in World's top 8, and once again, they ran the gamut of what was possible.
Whenever I think about classic survival horror games, I'm not really imagining Sega platforms. I mean, hell, my brain's gonna wander to the Wii and GameCube before I'm thinking about stuff like the Saturn or the Dreamcast. And I mean, sure, the Dreamcast did see some Resident Evil games and even Dino Crisis and stuff, but overall, there's not really that many iconic horror games here that you couldn't just play on a PlayStation. Unless you want to count, like, Typing of the Dead. Does it count as a horror game just because it's got zombies? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't want to die! It is pretty damn fun, though. However, there is one horror game that is still exclusive to the Dreamcast that people really do seem to remember. Every single time I would see horror game talks surrounding Sega, the conversation would always seem to come to this weird game called Illbleed. I've seen this cover before, and I tell ya, I have always been estranged by this bizarre box art. I don't even know what's supposed to be going on here. Is that a doll face in the middle with the whole Two-Face thing going on? And who the hell are all these guys down here? You got this goblin over here, and then is that a lumberjack with a wrench? It's the sort of cover that's impossible to discern anything from. Like, I've always wondered what you even do in this game. Who do I control? How does it play? All I see on the cover is a bunch of freaky ass shit. It doesn't tell me what the game's about. Oh, maybe the back's got something. Okay, there we go. There's some characters. Whoa, that's going through the time. Jesus. And the brain guy is pretty freaky, too. No idea what's supposed to be going on up there. But, let's see. Imagine, if you will, a berserk B-movie horror film producer with a twisted sense of humor puts up $1 million to anybody who can survive his 7 movie theme worlds. It's a bloody mess of mutant monsters, over 1,000 traps and items, and abject terror fused with B-movie humor? That sounds interesting. Delves a badly needed transfusion to the been-there, done-that horror game genre. Well, I've certainly been there and done that, that's for sure. So maybe this will be something a little bit different. I mean, it sounds absolutely bananas. Made by Crazy Games. It sure looks like a crazy game. I've definitely never heard of them. They don't even have a Wikipedia page either. The only other 2 games I could find by these guys were an arcade light gun game called Maze of Kings and another Dreamcast survival horror game called Blue Stinger. Maybe there's another one I should take a look at someday. Shinya Nishigaki seems to be the one tying these 3 games together, having produced all 3. I was kind of curious why his career didn't seem to expand very far past these games, and looking into it, it's because he unfortunately passed away in 2004, lapsing in his home due to a heart attack. Though while he was with us, he did make quite the journey. Only age 26, he joined Enix and helped localize 2 of the Dragon Quest games. After that, he would join Climax Entertainment and would produce games exclusively for Sega platforms from then on. And I guess one of the last things he left us with before parting ways beyond was this bad boy right here. And buddy, let me tell you, this seems to be a cult freaking classic with a capital C. Like, you won't find a ton of people out there who like this game, but the people who do, they love the freaking shit.
ハイラル王国の歴史は太古の昔から幾
I think I just might be holding something kind of special here. Now, I have actually played this once before. Way back in high school, my buddy and I used to burn a bunch of rare horror games that we'd never find copies of. The irony. Now, I reviewed them all. We used to play a lot of those, just try them out, and eventually we got to Hill 2, but we only got about like halfway through the first level before we found ourselves really confused and lost, and then we just moved on to Haunted Room. So, of course, as is the case with all of ththese old frickin' horror games, Illbleed's incredibly rare and expensive. I was extremely lucky to have my buddy Andrew send me over to his copy. He sent me over to his copy. No one Shout out Slam Drew. You're the reason I'm able to take a look at this game tonight. I'm incredibly privileged and lucky to be able to do so. And, yeah, he kept this in incredibly good condition, I tell you. Not all heroes eat grapes. No manual, though. The cover insert's just reproduction, which, you know, it's okay. Beggars can't be choosers. I mean, I just want to figure out what this thing's even all about. Find out why people seem to love it so much. Like, is it a scary game? Is it just, like, really fun? Or is it bad, but, like, campy or something? Why don't we find out already?
Enter if you dare.
Man, that's a good-ass title screen. Oh, the bold, bloody font, the gates leading to the mansion, and the rolling clouds, complete with thunder and lightning. It's pretty badass.
As far as I can remember, my family ran what we called a horror caravan.
The story begins with our protagonist, Eriko, competing in her high school's 18th annual speech competition.
I kind of like traveling. All that gruesome gore got to me after a while.
She explains that her family would always hold these horror carnivals, and her father was so obsessed with creating these terrifying contraptions for it that he would test them all out on her to make sure that they were scary.
I mean, you have to be brave to walk through a den of snakes or try to avoid trapdoors to make it to your room.
Could you imagine that happening in your own home? Like, you fall through a trapdoor into a pile of bees just because you wanted to brush your teeth.
My mom couldn't stand how obsessed he got, but she thankfully divorced him when I was 6.
What kind of speech is this? She should be saying all this shit to a therapist, not a room full of her classmates for a competition. After her speech is over, she meets up with some friends who tell her that she's a shoo-in to win.
That was great! I mean, you're the head of the horror research club, and hold on, is that? What about you, Erico?
That's Ryan Drummond, Sonic's voice actor in Dreamcast.
I thought we were toast for sure.
You also might have picked out Lonnie Manila's voice too, another Sonic Adventure cast member.
Sounds too good to be true.
Not only does she voice Erico and a number of other characters too, she was also the game's recording director and even did the casting as well. So I guess it makes sense she'd probably want to call up people that she worked with before and had a good experience with.
Oh.
So Erico and Kevin are talking to their idiot friend Randy about the speech when Michelle runs up with these tickets to a carnival called Illbleed.
Look, we can win $100 million there.
Yeah, we can manage to get through the whole park, that is.
After her friends try to convince her to go so she can face all the fears she talked about in her speech, Erico refuses, questioning the validity of the $100 million. I mean, I would too. That's a cartoonish amount of money. So her dumbass friends all go to Illbleed anyway, dropping their things behind. Maybe she will go after all. Yeah, she does, but for good reason. Her friends kind of disappeared after going for Illbleed.
What
She
the-
hasn't seen them in days.
Did you see?
Why the hell does the fire rod have so much durability?
Well, okay. With that, we are now in the park.
How?
We're looking for our friends, and I suppose along the way, we'll see if that reward money's real or not. Okay, so here we are in the game's little hub area. It's sort of like they made a theme park plaza
Burning
out
them
of
to
a
death means they won't drop
yard.
their
Oh my
second.
god, the skybox really sells it too. This is...
I'm getting rid of this.
It's freaking awesome. There's a bunch of stuff you can do here between each level. We got Dummy Man's photographed in. Whoa, that's actually kind of creepy. This is just a save room. You talk to Dummy Man, and he'll save your game for you. And across the way from there, we've got Mary's Pharmacy, this little shop where you can buy recovery items that unlock into each level.
I
So I guess that
accidentally
makes
do
that
item
Mary then.
durability
Oh, that's
slot
the
transfer.
dolphin. Nice. Man, they really make this place look the part, though. It's got all the bizarre clutter you'd expect from a weird, shifty pharmacy. Boxes of strange drugs litter the shelves. You got vitamin power, diet tablet, super guard. What the hell is all this shit? It's really not often you get to see this level of detail in an old game like this. This is just incredible. Oh shit, I found the porno. Why don't we take one of those suckers for the road? Yeah, that's right, you can even buy one. This is the cheapest thing on the menu, may as well. I mean, like, what does this even do? Moving on, up here, we have the visitor bank. Friendly aftercare. I think this is like, if a character dies, you can pay to get them back or something? We'll have to see how that works later on. Okay, we got one last one way down over on this side of the hub world. There's the yard. Oh man, a spooky hospital with Dreamcast graphics. Hell yeah, look at all the creepy posters and shit. That's so rad. This is where you can spend money on upgrading your characters, and the way it works is just horrific. You'll be exploring a level, and you'll just find a weird organ in a tube. Artificial brains, iron hearts, artificial plasma, and bio bodies. Alright, doc, here's 120 grand, put that shit inside me, yo. Yeah, that's right, you pay these doctors to do operations where they put these random organs you found inside your body. You get to watch a clip of them doing the procedure on you. The return to life operations are actually kind of gruesome. Look at that, that is some Dreamcast yuck right there. Oh, that's so sick. You can pay for one of these to bring a character back to life if you have somebody die during a level. Wait, what the hell is the visitor bank for then? So that's just about it for the main plaza area down here. If we walk up these steps here, we'll then find the main level hub. Here we've got a bunch of these different theaters that are all playing a different horror film by Illbleed's creator, Michael Reynolds. Apparently all of the movies he made were way too gruesome for theaters, so the only way you can experience them is in his park. And when I say experience, I literally mean experience. These movies are the levels. So with that, I guess we'll jump on into the first one. We have the home run of death.